Welcome to Polygon's overview series. I'm Charlie Hall. I've invited with me today Mr. Ben Kuchera. Hello, Ben.
I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm not too shabby. We are going to be playing some Elite Dangerous today. And this is what it kind of looks like when you start up.
Before we get any further, I want to know about the hardware you're using, because you have quite this setup going on here.
Well, I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the year of the flight sim. I'm definitely getting back into it. There's a lot of good titles, so I went and spent the time and the money to search for a nice HOTAS set. Hands-on throttle and stick. I got a X52 used on eBay from SciTech. Very pleased with it.
And how much should that cost you used, and what are we going to get it for new? If we want to get into this dirty business of flight sims.
You can get a really good flight set for probably about 60-70 bucks. This one new is about 150, but I picked it up for about 70. Shipped, it was about 90 bucks.
So right now we're looking at, it looks like a galaxy view?
Yeah, so this is the navigation screen. This is actually kind of an enhanced version of the navigation system. You've got this light ray coded map that they added recently that lets you see kind of the trade routes between all the different systems and whether they are alliance or independent or federation trade routes. It's just beautiful.
This looks enormous.
It's huge. There's something like 400 square light years, I believe, that they've added to the game recently. But I'm going to zoom back out the map here, and you're going to see it's just a small corner of the western spiral arm of the galaxy here. It's so very small, and they're eventually going to make all of the Milky Way available to players.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. Your ship actually, you can go only so far. You can go only in hops of a certain length depending on the ship that you've got. So right now I'm kind of plotting a course. I'm going to need to go to Butis in order to make it over to All-In. All-In is my end destination where I need to take this shipment to.
So I love the user interface in Elite. The screen you're looking at, this holographic display, it's not actually up on your cockpit all the time. Like, you look at it and it pops up. The cockpit always feels so reactive to me when I'm playing this.
Right, when you're using just a keyboard and mouse, you hit a button and it's going to pull up those screens to your left and right that are kind of your heads-up display screens. What I'm using with this right now actually is a Track IR. So I've got a little infrared dongle attached to my headset, and as I turn left and right, it's actually changing the view and bringing up those different HUD displays.
So that's like is it like a webcam you put on your monitor and then you put the little motion tracking thing on what, like the bill of a cap or something?
Well, there's a couple of different ways that the Track IR works. The way that I have it, there's actually an infrared emitter that clips onto the side of my headset, and then there's an infrared receiver that I clip onto the top of my monitor. And yeah, I've got custom curves built in so that how I move my head in particular, the computer's able to track my movements.
So I'm nowhere near as far as you are in the game. I don't have anywhere near the hours, but I've actually been playing it in virtual reality using the Oculus Rift DK2. And that's the same thing. Like, I move my head very naturally, and I'm able to look around the cockpit. I can lean into the displays and read it. And it's really neat to, like, look to the left and see this display pop up and give me information that I'm looking for. It really feels like it wants you to fly it, almost.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And it's really slick with the throttle and stick set that I've got too. You can actually use the hat switches to manipulate all the different menus within the cockpit. So I never have to take my hands off the stick to do anything inside this fighter plane.
And so you just retracted your gear. Elite does a really good job of giving you like enough things to play with that it feels kind of simmy, but not so many that you're overwhelmed. Like, it's all the fun parts of piloting a ship is how it feels to me.
Right, and piloting a ship in space. Like, what I just did is I pulled out of this massive space station. It's actually a city on the outside of this several kilometer wide cube. It's a habitation. People live along the outer edge of it, but then you've got to go inside the bowels of it to dock your ship. And so you can see I'm twisting the right stick. That's kind of thrusting and giving me some yaw left and right. And then the throttle with the left hand, I'm able to go forwards and also backwards in space. The really handy thing with the the throttle stick, though, is there's a little hat switch on the throttle itself. So I'm able to do fine adjustments, left, right, up, and down. So there's actually, you've got your standard aircraft movement axes, and then there's 4 additional axes where you can just kind of slew up or down or left or right, but then also move backwards.
See, this gives you a lot more control. I'm just using the mouse and keyboard.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness, how is that?
Terrible. It feels very fudgy. The mouse does not feel, it doesn't feel natural. Like you kind of move it a little bit more, and then it's hard to explain. It's interesting and it's usable, but it doesn't feel very satisfying. I was telling you before, like even in dogfights, I feel like I just can't turn the way I need to. Even using A and D for yaw and finer controls, it just doesn't give me the kind of control I need. And it seems like you really do have to have a flight stick and a throttle to be able to kind of... There's so many different things to manipulate at once to fly well, it seems like. And doing that on a keyboard is just a nightmare in my experience.
Especially with docking, because when you're coming into dock, and we'll kind of see it here in a few minutes when we get closer to all in, you actually have to match the rotation of the starbase that you're trying to dock with as you come into the entrance of the starbase. And I don't know that that would be possible for me without a stick and a throttle. Have you tried a gamepad, though?
You know, I haven't really spent the time to set it up. I need to. So this is the station you're going to dock with.
Right, and this is one of the newer, larger star bases that they've added in the beta that just went live on the 29th of July. So once you get within 7,500 kilometers, 7.5 kilometers, you can actually request to dock. So I'm going to do that over here on the left-hand HUD display. And then it starts a timer. You've got about 10 minutes to get into the docking bay and get yourself landed, or they blow you up. And you're actually going to see somebody get detonated as we come closer to the docking port here. So if you look carefully at my right hand there, I'm actually using the lateral movement. I'm twisting the stick to kind of use the yaw. Got the throttle all the way forward, and it's hard to tell, but with my left index finger, I'm using that little hat switch to kind of slide myself left and right, get in a good position. Here we're going to slide way left.
This is like some serious flying you're doing right now. Like you have to maneuver. You can see kind of the cage guiding you in. You don't have a lot of room for error here.
No, it's really thrilling just to land successfully.
And this is what I love about Elite, because I'm doing a lot of the early missions, and like the dogfighting thing is fun, but I'd much rather simulate being like almost a freighter pilot than a fighter pilot. I just think this is so cool, like the reality of what living in space and one of these ships would be like. This is the kind of stuff that really brings me into the game.
Well, you're in luck, because that's a lot of what they've added with the beta. So with the beta, they've actually got missions that you can take. And those missions can be to go to a certain sector and blow up a couple of ships. But more often than not, the more profitable and frankly the easier missions are going to be just to make a milk run and deliver some stuff. So what I'm delivering here is actually leather, 1 ton of leather to the all-in space system. And it's going to give me something like 6,500 credits. It's a lot of money for just a couple of slugs of leather.
So give us a little bit of context. What would like a new ship cost in this game?
Oh my goodness.
So much?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of credits. A single weapon, we're going to get to kind of outfitting the ship here in a little bit, but a single weapon is maybe 10,000 credits.
Oh, wow.
Some repairs to your ship could be a couple hundred credits if you've really done it up poorly. The economy isn't quite done yet, and I'm not sure if the prices are going to change or the rarity of things are going to change, but yeah, a new ship is well outside of my range right now.
Oh, I see. Your radar shifted into your little landing mode here. If you look in the middle bottom of the screen, you can see it's helping you line it up.
Yeah, and it actually gives you little audio cues. So I'm using those thrusters on the throttle pretty extensively to guide the ship down and lock it into place. And then the starport actually kind of reaches out and grabs you and pulls you underground so you can actually do some training. It clears
that's cool.
the port for other people.
So, like, this kind of begs the question, where does one find a ton of leather in space? Are there space cows?
Well, one of the other new starports that they've built into the game actually has little transparent biomes that you can stare into from outer space. Over to one of those, but you know, theoretically they've got little virtual habitations where, yeah, space cows.
So they have. I was making a joke, but it sounds like they've actually thought of this. Like they're thinking of how this universe, you know, operates and works.
Here we are at that outfitting bit that I was talking about. So I blew up my ship, Ben.
Oh, that's no good.
That happened earlier, before this play session. So all of the equipment I've got right now is loaned. So I'm actually buying back some of my own equipment, and it's going to cost me a little bit extra. But you can see one of these burst lasers, about 5,800 credits.
Oh gosh.
This one's 8,700 credits for a burst laser.
Do you like the lasers, or do you like the machine guns?
Well, they all have their own applications, right? So a big part of the game is heat management. And so the lasers are going to use a lot more heat, as are your shields, versus some of the projectile weapons, which are your machine guns or your missile weapons. So depending on how you've got the ship outfitted and how you're moving power between different systems, depends very heavily on, you know, how you can fight with that craft in space.
So you're very much, you're not just picking weapons, you're crafting a loadout, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, totally. There's actually little, you can actually get so granular as selecting different fire groups, and you can select on fire group 1, you'll fire the missiles and the projectile weapons, and on firing group 2, when you switch a dial, you'll move to lasers and turn off all the projectile weapons. So here's that.
Very much, it has a mech warrior vibe.
Oh, definitely has a mech warrior vibe, yeah. And all of the hat switches you can see there, when you're in combat, you can actually move power between systems, engineering, weapons, or just cooling in general. So we're going to move from here, inside All-In Spaceport, right into some combat. So you mentioned that you were having issues with combat. What's your beef, man?
It's basically, I can't seem to turn fast enough.
Okay.
Like, once they get on my 6, I find it really hard. And it's cool in virtual reality, because you can actually look all the way behind you and see the enemy fighter on your tail.
Mm-hmm.
Like, being able to look around quickly, and you get a sense of this, and using Track IR is incredibly cool. But in the Oculus Rift, actually being able to look completely around and track the enemy, it's almost scary in a way. It's a very intense way to do combat. But yeah, doing fine, not even fine movements, but very quick motions to get them in front of me, I'm having trouble with. And you had some pointers for me.
Well, first thing you're going to want to do is grab a stick and a throttle. That's going to help immensely.
So you're saying this is a pay-to-win game?
If I bought all this stuff retail, I'm about $300 in, and that's without having bought the game.
That's amazing.
So I got a lot of it on eBay, though. There's also training wheels. There is a setting within the game. The name of it is escaping me. I'll drop it in the comments on the post when we put it up. But you can take, I believe it's like inertia. You can turn it off, and that kind of takes some of the training wheels off, and it stops the ship from behaving like a terrestrial craft. And once you take those training wheels off, you're kind of left to your own devices. You can send your ship hurtling in one direction, and while you're moving that direction, you can turn completely around, you know, like Starbuck in Battlestar Galactica, and shoot into your 6 spot. So if somebody's following you, you just turn around and shoot them. Then you turn back around and go the other direction.
I need to do that. I think that's my problem. I'm so early in the game. It's terrible.
So what we're doing right now is I've actually rigged my ship for silent running. So if you look at my dashboard, on the right-hand side, that's my ship. I've turned the shields of my ship off, and I'm actually going after some more heavily armed ships that don't know that I'm there. I'm using the asteroid field for cover. So this Federal fighter does not see me coming because I'm running silent, and I am going to quickly flip out of silent running. I'm going to open up my hard points, and I'm going to take them out. Scratch one Federal fighter. So now I'm going to quickly reach down, go back into silent running, and head for the hills. There's a mercenary out here in this asteroid field with me, and he is going to be able to take me out pretty easily if he can find me. So I'm going to try and hide behind this asteroid so he can't.
I'm really impressed by how well the radar does in the game at telling you where things are spatially. Like, you can tell whether they're behind you, whether they're in front of you, if they're above or below you. There's a lot. This takes place in 3D space, and there's a lot to manage when you're doing things like this. But the game is really good at giving you a bunch of data in a way that's very easy to take in. Oh, you're getting blown up.
I am. So my shields are down. I'm ducking behind this asteroid. You can see one of his missiles hit the asteroid, but the next one takes me right out. So I've got a lot of learning to do yet, Ben.
Well played.
And that's it. So thanks for joining me, Ben. I hope